Okay, so uh, this is going to be part two of the little like intro to web dev project we have going on. In the first part, I just pretty much covered what web dev is. I went really quickly over like what HTML and CSS are, but towards the end of part one, I'll coded up what we have here. So in case you don't, or like in case you skipped part one thinking it was just like an introduction, go back, watch the last, I don't know, I think it was like 15, 20 minutes of it, where I just like go through and code up this what we have right here, pretty much. And it's just all it is just HTML. And then come back and we will continue doing this project using CSS. So if in case like you lost yourself in the files or you don't know what it is I am looking at. Pretty much what I am looking at on my screen right now is just the index.html inside of the source folder that you can find in the project. And I'm also looking at a preview of the README. This is what the README actually looks like, but the VS Code should have an extension already installed that just lets you like see the nice side of things for that. If not, it's probably an extension somewhere. You can also maybe open up the markdown in the browser in case like you don't see what I see. But yeah, just to get you guys caught up. I know when I'm watching a tutorial or when I'm like following along with someone, if I don't, if I'm not seeing exactly what they're seeing, I like freak out a bit because I'm like, did I get lost? But yeah, no, just I want to make sure everyone's caught up. But yeah, if you're returning or like if you're continuing, thank you. So we're going to be moving on into the CSS side of things. We are going to be making this look pretty and nice. And with that, I will continue. And so the next step we are going to do is we will be adding what's known as a style sheet in web development. It's usually a CSS file. There are like CSS libraries, that's way more advanced than what you should be learning right now. But right now, foundational starter, like starting, you should be working with a CSS file. And like it's good to keep it classic. It's foundational, but there's a reason why it's been around for so long. And I'll be honest, even I use more CSS than like those CSS libraries. But yeah. And so I did that really quickly. I just realized. But in this header tag, you will want to go underneath this already imported style sheet. This is a reset style sheet. This is just something I add to all of my projects, mainly to keep things consistent across different browsers. Different browsers do have like default, what's known as rules. They're just like CSS rules. Uh, Different browsers have different rules already like ingrained into them. And this file I included, so you will have access to it. And also in the README, I included a little link in case you want to learn more. But pretty much what it does is that it has all these rules that tell the browser like everything you have by default, turn it off. We're starting from scratch. And so in case like you wanted to know what this line is, that's what that is. But we will be adding a new link tag for our style sheet that we will be importing to design or like to like add the design to our web page. And I believe I already have a style sheet for y'all. It's inside the source folder called style. So in the href and source, in case like you're following along in the HTML tag, in the HTML part, I didn't really like cover what source is under image. But same thing as like href, it can mean the same things. It's just that href is looking for like a local, I believe, URL. And by local, I mean like within your project, while a source in the image tag, it can take whatever, like URL, even URLs over the internet. But for this href in the link tag, we're going to be giving it a style.css. I don't know if the Zoom recording picks it up, but when I started typing what's called IntelliSense, it's sort of like autocomplete for code, picked it up. So yeah, just in case like you don't have that, you should make sure you have that. I'm not sure how to turn it on. It should come with VS Code. If not, hopefully there's an extension out there. But yeah, just make sure you close that tag. I don't think you need a closing tag for style sheets. This one doesn't have it, so I'm going to assume you don't need one. But yeah, so with that imported, what does this look like now? And things changed. Why did things change? Because the file that I gave you in style already had some styles in it. If you recall from part one, we already had things laid out in our HTML or in our body tag, sorry. This stuff doesn't come predetermined for y'all. This stuff doesn't come for you. It's just something I like had just so you could see this change once we import it. Um, but if we now move from the HTML file to the style sheet, you can see exactly what's going on. This is everything it takes just to make the website look like this. And I will close the inspector for now. But if you can see the difference from this, it is already a pretty significant difference. So just know that CSS plays a big part in web development. It's not just a lot of people don't like CSS. Me, when I was starting out, I hated CSS, not because it was hard, but because it's very like tedious. It's a lot. When I talk to people about CSS, I tell them it's easy to write CSS. It's hard to write it correctly. And what I mean by that is that there's a lot of like standards and rules that go into things. You have to think about layouts, you have to think about responsiveness, something that I covered in part one. Um, and I can kind of show you some responsiveness. You can see how like as the screen changes, things stay centered. If it wasn't responsive or like I don't know if something I had it is already adding that in. I don't remember. But if you add things like what's called hard-coded values, everything would just like stay put as the screen size changes. So this is already being set up correctly for responsiveness, and you will see that as we progress more, how like this page will change as this screen size changes. And yeah, so going back to the styles we're importing, and by importing, I mean like we're just telling the HTML file where to look for the style sheet. Now we will be styling what I'm calling the template, which is this like start, I guess like, well, yeah, template card for the Pokédex that we're going to be making. And we are going to start that, or we're going to continue in this style.css file. And we're going to sort of target. I call it target. I don't know what anybody else calls it, but you're going to target your identifier. And an identifier can be either like a class, an ID, or a HTML tag. And I'm going to target a card class. And when you're writing CSS, you can target either class with a period, or you can target an ID with a pound sign. And it depends on like what you should target or like how you should add these to your HTML tags. It's something I didn't cover when I was doing the HTML part, but when you are going to be making styles that repeat for several elements, it's recommended to have a class that way the styling is shared among like all the elements that have this class. if you need to make something that's like unique to an element, it's recommended to have an ID of like not of a certain value, but like this is just for example, a unique ID, right? And so that way, like only the template would have this ID if I were to give it this. But yeah, so that was a quick like side rant, just so you're caught up with like what a class is in case you didn't know. But yeah, I'm going to start by giving the keep it remember, I guess like recall, not remember, recall that the card tag, or sorry, the tag with the card class in it, it is a container that has our Pokemon data. And so I'm going to give the container a set width. I'm going to change its background color just so we can see what or like what the element is, because if you go back to the HTML file, you can see that the card tag, or the tag that has a card class, is a div. And by default, divs are transparent. They are just containers. They don't do anything besides like just like contain whatever tags are in them. So using CSS, we can like change the background color of it. I keep pressing the wrong file. Sorry. Um, you can change the background color just to see like how it's positioned, where it is in the web page. And I will give it a border of 8 pixels solid. And the colors, I'm using custom colors that I cannot recall for the life of me. So I'm just copying and pasting from the markdown file. If you don't want to like have this open, you could just wait until I like copy and paste it here and you get it. But yeah. And then I'm going to make this rounded. The border, it will be rounded by 20 pixels. And you're probably asking yourself now, like, what is all of this? What's a rem? What's a px? What are these? So these are CSS rules. It is, you're not going to remember everything. You're not going to remember every rule that's out there. Usually the ones that are used a lot, those are the easiest to remember. So like width, background, border. Once you get to like more advanced layouts, display, and like the rules used to mess with the display, or the used to mess with the layout. But just know that it's impossible to learn every rule out there. So it's always nice if you're going to be developing, I guess, to like just have a like a cheat sheet or like a reminder of like what tags are out there. Usually the way I work is I will try to memorize like whatever rules I can, and whatever I don't, I'll just like look it up in the internet. Like, what's the rule for like setting a border? Like, I always have to look up what the border does, because you have to give it different lines. Also, if you have IntelliSense, if you hover over these rules, you get like what's known as a documentation. And so here, for border, you can see like the syntax. It's telling you what each value does. And so like that's something I never do. I, I would rather like look it up in the internet, and I guess like sometimes I use this reference, because they actually do give really good examples. But yeah. And then this like rem pixels, or px, that stands for pixels. This is just like a value that's used in CSS. There's different values that you don't need to know what they do right now, but just know that they're out there. Um, they are pixels, device view port height, and device view port width. There's RAM and M. I don't remember what they stand for, but yeah, just know that like there's these and so much more. But what is this looking like right now? Like this. We're not done yet, but already this is looking better than just like having like these elements floating in the middle of the screen. And we left off in the border radius before I got distracted. But so we're going to add a padding of 20 pixels. And what a padding does is that it moves things inside of its container. It like sort of like squeezes it more inside of it rather than a lot of people get it confused with margin. And we'll use margin somewhere else, but just know like if you go into the inspector, like we did before, and you look into what's called the layout, or at least it should be called the layout. Uh, in Firefox, it should be somewhere here. Here we go. You can see this like this box model. And if I click on the template, you can see here, hopefully, uh, how like I guess like yeah, the box model of the element is being I guess affected by the CSS values. You can see how this padding is 20 pixels, which if you go back is exactly what I'm feeding it. The border is 8 pixels, which again, it's exactly what I'm feeding it. And the cool thing about the inspector tool, like I mentioned earlier, you should get comfortable learning this, is you can mess with things here just to see how they look without actually affecting your code. And so you can see how like padding, it moves things inside, but if I move the margin, it moves the outside of it. But if I hover over, let me mess with this as well. If I hover over the entire container, the highlighted part is everything that's being, or everything that this div is. So that's the difference, or that's one way to like visualize the difference between padding and margin. And if you like get too crazy, you mess things up, you start deleting things. Like for example, I delete everything. You can always just refresh the page because what's being shown isn't or what you're changing, it doesn't save, like I mentioned, to the file. What's being shown is your file. So if you ever mess up, if you ever get crazy in the inspector tool, you can always just refresh and things will load back in as the way you had it here. But yeah, let me continue. And then I'll do a fixed height of bit content. So everything that's inside my container, it will expand as like things are added, which we won't be adding any more things since we already did the HTML part of it, but that's just what fit content does. If like you don't need to follow this part, but just for reference, if like you were to duplicate things, the card will grow with the content. And so that's just what fit content for height does rather than feeding it an exact hard-coded value like what we did with the width, right? And so now you're probably thinking like, why are there two images? Why are we doing this? It's because I am basing this project off of an actual web development assignment that was actually like one of my first web development assignments in college. And what what we will be doing with these two images is that when we hover over the card, we want the images to switch from like front to back because if you played the games, if it's your Pokemon, you see the back of it. If you're like fighting the Pokemon, you see the front of it. And it's just like nice. It's just nice to like show you also what CSS is capable of doing rather than just like styling things. It also has something called pseudo classes that I'll be covering right now, but that also affect like the way the user interacts with the pages. You don't necessarily need JavaScript. You can do it with JavaScript. A lot of people will like do it with JavaScript because not many people like know CSS. But yeah, with CSS, things are with CSS, it can be easier than like over developing your page, basically. Um, but yeah, whoops, didn't mean to do that. Uh, but yeah, let's continue. And so like we don't want this back sprite to be showing. So I will target the tag that has a class of back, and I'll feed it a rule called display none. And what this just means is it's telling the HTML or the browser, sorry, that not to show this or not to display this at all. And so if we go back, we can see that it's gone. But now if we hover over it, like I want to happen, where it switches back and forth, it's not happening. That's because we haven't added the pseudo classes yet. And so let's add on to the CS file, and we're going to target the card again, but we're going to give it a pseudo class of hover, right? I believe it's that. And it's actually supposed to be like this. And so inside of the card tag, whenever the card tag is hovered, I want to target these identifiers and change their rule. And by default, an HTML tag will have a display of block. And so I believe this is how I should do it. Let's see. Yeah, there you go. So this is wrong. Don't follow this file. I don't know why. Uh, it probably like formatted that way when I was doing my little format thing. Just like uh, that thing. But I don't know. I don't know why I copied like that. But yeah, so now when we hover over this, we can see a change. That's cool. And yeah, that's using a pseudo tag. So the pseudo tag is prefixed by this like colon. There's some pseudo, I don't know if it's a tag or a pseudo class, but they're like sometimes, yeah, you can see when the IntelliSense has like, if you do two colons, there's even more. I don't know what most of those do, to be honest, but that's what documentation's for. You're not gonna learn and memorize everything. It's more like you just know how things work and you're able to, I guess, like look it up and replicate it in a way that's necessary. But yeah, and then so that's how you use classes to target your HTML tags. But you can also, like I mentioned before, you can target direct HTML tags without having to reference their classes. And so did I add the button? Oh, I didn't add a button. Okay, so again, my documentation's wrong. There should be a button in here of type button. So go to the index file, and underneath the paragraph tag, you're just gonna type in a button tag, give it a type, and give it a class. Or actually, no, I don't think you need a class. And you can close the tag, and then let's just call it shiny, and you will understand why later. But if we go back to, or yeah, if we go back to the browser, you can see it has this like default button styling that I always hate. I can go into this and target the button directly with my CSS. Um, and I'll give it a color of white smoke, which is, these are like predetermined CSS colors. So you don't always have to use RGB custom colors. Um, I don't know if this is a VS Code extension or not. I have so many extensions, so I don't remember what's default or not. But there's also some like predetermined CSS colors, like aquamarine, blue, blue violet. But yeah, just so you know. And then we're going to give it a margin top of 10 pixels, a border radius of 15 pixels, a border style solid. And I remember when I was following like tutorials when I was first learning web development, I was like, it's hard to keep up when they're doing CSS because it sounds like they're just copying and pasting things. But when it comes to writing CSS, it's easier if you're looking at a design and you just sort of like it's kind of like translating a language. Like if you're bilingual, it's I'm predominantly an English speaker, but when I like speak Spanish, I have to think it in English, and then like as I speak it, I have to like manually translate everything into Spanish. And that's sort of what it is when you're writing like CSS. And you're looking at a design and you're translating it to code. That's just what it is, really. There's no like set formula. But yeah, so I'll just like copy this custom color that I have, and then I'll give it a min width of 50%. And that looks ugly because of the background color, but you'll see later it looks a lot better. And so that's exactly that's exactly how you can like target a direct HTML tag without having to like reference its ID or class. But just know that every time you like add a button in the HTML file, this rule will always target it. So if for some reason later on you decide you want like to add a nav bar to this and you have a button in the nav bar, you'll have to like readjust this ruling because it's going to take everything that you applied to this button and apply it to that button that like you make. And so that's why like things like classes and IDs are used because you're not always going to want to target every button, right? It's better to like I guess like target specific things rather than just like general tags. But yeah, this is just to like keep in mind like this project, it's not best practices. This is just to like get you accustomed to things, like see how things work. Um, but yeah, and so ta-da, that's our template card for what we're going to be for the data we're going to be calling in. Um, but yeah, next thing we're going to be just like loading in data from using JavaScript. I don't know if I mentioned it in this part. I mentioned it. If I didn't, I mentioned it in the first part. I'm not going to be covering JavaScript in detail the same way I'm like, I guess like with HTML and CSS. I know I'm not covering any detail, but I'm like sort of like walking you through it. The JavaScript, I give you guys a lot of pre-coded functions that I made myself. Um, this file called the helpers, it's exactly what it is. It's just a lot of functions for helpers. It's going to look like gibberish if you don't know what JavaScript is. That's fine. You don't need to understand everything. But just know that everything isn't magic. Like you don't just like connect the file and everything works. Like these types of things you sort of like need to make yourself and you sort of like need to like I guess like stumble your way through it. When you're learning web development, you're not gonna know everything. I did not know everything. It took me years and years of like learning to just like even I guess like remotely understand the foundations. I'm still stumbling my way through the foundations now, and I work as a web developer. So yeah, just know like if you don't understand some things, don't feel discouraged. It's not the end of the world. Honestly, it just takes time. It takes time and a lot of practice. And the fact that you're doing this, if you're watching this, hopefully you're doing it. The fact that you're doing it, you're already way ahead than like a lot of people. Because a lot of people, including myself, like when I was first starting out, I was stuck in what's called like tutorial hell. And tutorial hell is just like you watch a lot of tutorials and you just like follow step by step, but you never like create something yourself. And just like keep that in mind. It's good to learn. It's better to do. But yeah, really quick. Should I continue to JS? Okay. Okay. So yeah, like I mentioned, I'm just gonna like rush through the JS, but this code is here in case like you ever do want to dissect it. Honestly, you could probably feed it into ChatGPT and like tell it like explain every line to me. And ChatGPT will do a whole like way better explanation than me. But pretty much what's going on is that there is what's called an API. And an API would just like short term or like really oversimplified, it will give you a bunch of data, right? So I created these functions for you that will call the API. It will get the data. It will format all the data and feed it into the HTML. So that way, like we don't have to like have 151 cards in our HTML file. Like this is everything we need. Our HTML file is done for now. And so it will add it into what's known as a DOM. You don't need to know about the DOM right now, but the DOM is just basically everything inside everything that's in here. It will add it to the DOM, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So, oh, okay. I gave this to you like uncommon or un non-commented. This was supposed to be commented out so you could like see how like things work. But if you add a slash in front of this line, this line, this line, and this line, and it's already set up to like automatically run everything. But in our index HTML file, we're going to go where the body tag or the closing body tag is. We're going to write a script. Uh, sorry, I keep wanting to use shortcuts. Script of type module with a source of the path to the file. So for me, and hopefully for you, it's script.js. And I will close it. Nothing's happening, right? Because we commented out everything that's supposed to happen. So if we uncomment this function, hmm, interesting. Hopefully that's not, that should have done something. But let me see if things are working. Create all cards. Oh no. Let me, let's go. Okay. There's some technical difficulties. I guess I like saved it when, in order to serve everything to you, in this like tutorial manner, I have to create everything and then break it. I think I broke it too much. We're going to, or let me see if I could fix it really quick. I will console log hello world just to make sure that this is running, and it's not. Shiny button is no. Oh, okay, so something is breaking. It's the button that I forgot to add earlier. I think it's because in my index.html in the button, I probably named this something like shiny button. Or sorry, that's type. I need to give it a class called shiny button. I don't remember. I promise. Shiny button is no 46. All right. I'm going to debug this really quick, and then hopefully there will be like a third part. That's my fault. I will fix this. When you get this repo, hopefully it'll be fixed. But yeah, what's breaking it is this button that I forgot to add to the documentation, and I just don't remember the exact class or ID I gave it. Uh, but yeah.